I should have known better than to accept the Thanksgiving invitation from my in-laws. 2 years of marriage to James Anderson hadn't changed his family's opinion of me, the lowly secretary who had somehow trapped their golden boy. The Anderson family mansion loomed before us, its Victorian architecture a testament to old money and older prejudices. James squeezed my hand as we walked up the marble steps. "It'll be different this time, Kate," Mom promised to behave. I smoothed down my Chanel dress, the one thing I'd allowed myself to splurge on from my secretary's salary, and forced a smile. If only they knew. The door swung open to reveal Margaret Anderson, my mother-in-law, dressed in what she probably thought was casual attire, a designer sweater set adorned with her signature pearls. "James, darling," she exclaimed, embracing her son while barely acknowledging my existence. The house was already buzzing with activity. James's sister Elizabeth and her investment banker husband held court in the living room, while his brother Michael discussed stock portfolios with their father, Richard. The children were somewhere upstairs with their nanny, another clear distinction between the help and the family. "Catherine," Margaret's voice cut through my observations, "be a dear and help Maria in the kitchen. You must feel right at home there, given your professional background." James started to protest, but I touched his arm. "It's fine," I whispered. "Let them think what they wanted, for now." The kitchen was chaos, with Maria, their longtime housekeeper, trying to manage multiple dishes at once. I genuinely enjoyed helping her, remembering my own days of working 3 jobs to put myself through business school. Maria shot me a sympathetic look as I rolled up my sleeves. "Mrs. Kate," she whispered, "you shouldn't be here. Your family." I winked at her. "Don't worry about me, Maria. Things have a way of working themselves out." An hour later, Margaret swept into the kitchen. "We're ready to eat. Catherine, we've arranged special seating this year." The dining room was a picture of old-world elegance with its crystal chandelier and antique mahogany table. But Margaret wasn't leading me there. Instead, she gestured to a small plastic table set up in the corner, complete with cartoon character plates and tiny chairs. "Since you're more comfortable with a simpler setting, we thought you'd prefer to sit with the children. Plus, the adults will be discussing business matters that might be over your head, dear." The room fell silent. James stood up, his face reddening. "Mother, that's enough." But before he could continue, my phone rang. The familiar ringtone made me smile. I'd been waiting for this call. "Excuse me," I said, maintaining my composure. "I need to take this. It's about a rather important acquisition." Margaret rolled her eyes. "Really, Catherine, taking work calls at Thanksgiving? I know secretary work never ends, but surely your filing can wait." I put the phone on speaker. "Go ahead, Jennifer." "Madam President, I apologize for interrupting your holiday, but the board needs your immediate approval. The Anderson manufacturing acquisition is ready to proceed. As CEO of Sterling Industries, your signature is required to finalize the purchase." The crystal glass in Richard Anderson's hand crashed to the floor. Margaret's face drained of color as she gripped the back of a chair for support. "The papers are being sent to your tablet now," Jennifer continued. "Once signed, Sterling Industries will officially own 51% of Anderson Manufacturing. Oh, and the press release about your Forbes cover story is scheduled for tomorrow morning. Shall I delay it, given the holiday?" I looked around the room at the shocked faces of my in-laws. Elizabeth had stopped mid-sip of her wine, the glass frozen halfway to her mouth. Michael's carefully crafted mask of superiority had cracked wide open. And Richard, my father-in-law, looked like he'd seen a ghost. "No need to delay anything, Jennifer. In fact, please inform the board I'll be making some immediate changes to the company's structure." I turned to face my father-in-law, starting with the CEO position. "I believe retirement might be calling, wouldn't you say, Richard?" James moved to stand beside me, wrapping an arm around my waist. The pride in his eyes made all the months of hiding worth it. He kept my secret, understanding why I needed to maintain the facade while the acquisition was in progress. "I don't understand," Margaret stammered. "You're just a secretary." "No, Margaret, I was a secretary years ago, while putting myself through business school at night. Then I built Sterling Industries from the ground up. But when I met James at that charity gala, I chose to keep that quiet. I wanted to know if your son could love me for me, not my net worth." I walked over to the children's table and picked up one of the cartoon plates. I think I'll pass on the special seating arrangement, but I would love to discuss business over dinner. After all, I am now your boss. The silence in the room was deafening. My phone buzzed again. Another message from Jennifer about the acquisition. Looking at the Anderson family's stunned faces, I realized this Thanksgiving would indeed be one for the records. And we hadn't even served the turkey yet. The next 30 minutes were a study in barely contained chaos. Margaret fled to the kitchen, claiming she needed to check on the turkey, though the rhythmic clinking of ice against crystal suggested she was fixing herself a much-needed drink. Richard had aged 10 years in 10 minutes, slumped in his chair, staring at his phone as Anderson Manufacturing's stock price began to shift with the first whispers of the acquisition. Elizabeth, ever the social climber, executed the fastest attitude adjustment I ever witnessed. "Kate, darling," she cooed, patting the seat next to her. "You simply must tell us all about Sterling Industries. To think we've had such a powerful businesswoman in the family all this time." "Yes," Michael chimed in, straightening his tie. "I actually have some excellent investment opportunities I'd love to discuss." "Not now, Michael," James cut in, his voice firm. "This is still Thanksgiving dinner, not a board meeting." Maria appeared with the turkey, followed by a visibly rattled Margaret. My mother-in-law's hands trembled as she took her seat, her perfect French manicure clicking against her water glass. Well, Margaret attempted to regain control of her perfectly planned dinner. "Shall we say grace?" "Actually," I said, pulling out my tablet, "before we begin, I should finish signing these papers. Richard, you'll want to witness this." I turned to Maria. "Would you mind waiting just a moment?" Maria smiled. She'd known my secret for months, having recognized me from a business magazine left in the study. "Of course, Mrs. Kate." I signed the digital documents with a flourish, watching Richard's face grow paler with each electronic signature. There. Now Anderson Manufacturing is officially part of Sterling Industries' portfolio. And yes, Margaret, let's say grace. I have much to be thankful for. The prayer was a tense affair, with Margaret's voice cracking on "Bless this family gathering." As we began passing dishes, Elizabeth launched her charm offensive. "Kate, that Channel dress is exquisite. I have the same one in blue. We simply must go shopping together at Bergdorf's." "Funny," I replied, serving myself some cranberry sauce. "I remember you telling me last that I shouldn't waste money on designer clothes on a secretary's salary, and I should stick to department store clearance racks." Elizabeth choked on her wine. "Speaking of salaries," Michael leaned forward, "about those investment opportunities." "Michael," I cut him off gently, "Sterling Industries has a strict policy against nepotism in business dealings. But I'm sure you understand that, given how often you've lectured me about proper business protocols at family gatherings." James squeezed my knee under the table, fighting back a smile. "I just don't understand," Margaret finally burst out, her composure cracking. "Why the deception? Why let us believe? Why work as a secretary in our company?" "I never worked as a secretary in your company, Margaret," I corrected her. "That was another assumption you made. I simply didn't correct you when you jumped to conclusions about my career after meeting James, and then it became interesting to see how you treat someone you consider beneath you." Richard cleared his throat. "About the company, we'll discuss the transition tomorrow at 9 a.m., I said firmly. "Your office, though I suppose it's my office now." The rest of dinner proceeded in awkward bursts of conversation, punctuated by the children's occasional laughter from their table, the one that had been meant for me. Margaret kept glancing between me and her precious family photographs on the wall, perhaps realizing she'd need to update them to include the daughter-in-law she tried so hard to exclude. As Maria brought out dessert, my phone buzzed again. "Excuse me," I said, checking the message. "Ah, perfect timing. The press release just went live. I expect your phones will start ringing any minute now." On cue, Richard's phone lit up. Then Michael's. Then Elizabeth's. "You'll want to ignore those for now," I advised. "The official statement will be made tomorrow morning, though I suggest you all update your LinkedIn profiles. Former executives at Anderson Manufacturing has a nice ring to it, don't you think?" Margaret dropped her fork with a clatter. "Former?" "Well, of course," I replied, taking a bite of pumpkin pie. "You don't think I'd keep the same management team that thought it was appropriate to seat their CEO at the children's table, do you?" The silence that followed was broken only by the sound of Richard's heavy breathing and the distant laughter of the children. the only ones truly enjoying their Thanksgiving dinner. James, Margaret turned to her son, pleading, "Did you know about this?" James set down his napkin. "I knew exactly who I was marrying, Mom. I fell in love with Kate's brilliance, her determination, and her kindness, despite how this family treated her. I've watched her bite her tongue through every condescending comment, every backhanded compliment, every deliberate slight, and I've never been prouder than I am right now." I reached for his hand, squeezing it tightly. This was why I'd fallen in love with him. Not his family name, but his heart. Well, Elizabeth stood suddenly. "This has been enlightening. We should probably get the children." "Sit down, Elizabeth," I said calmly. "Dessert isn't finished, and we haven't even discussed plans yet. After all, we're family." The look of horror on their faces almost made the past 2 years of subtle humiliation worth it. Almost. The weeks following Thanksgiving brought changes that sent shockwaves through the Anderson family's carefully ordered world. Richard cleared out his office without fanfare, his prized golf trophies and family photos packed away in bankers' boxes. Elizabeth's husband suddenly found his investment firm losing clients, though unsure it was just a coincidence that many were Sterling Industries partners. Michael's investment opportunities dried up once word spread about the acquisition. But it was Margaret who struggled most with the new reality. Her carefully curated social circle buzzed with the news. The daughter-in-law she'd so publicly snubbed was now featured in Forbes magazine. Her company's success splashed across financial headlines. 2 weeks before, I received an unexpected visit at my new office, formerly Richard's sanctuary of mahogany and leather. "Catherine." Margaret stood in the doorway, clutching her designer handbag like a shield. "Do you have a moment?" I gestured to the chair across from my desk. "Of course, Margaret. Please sit." She perched on the edge of the seat, looking oddly vulnerable without her usual armor of social superiority. "The party," she began and faltered. "I assume you'll be hosting this year?" "Actually, I thought you should keep that tradition," I replied, watching her eyes widen in surprise. "Some things shouldn't change just because of business matters." "But," she twisted her pearls nervously, "after everything." "Margaret," I leaned forward. "I didn't buy Anderson Manufacturing for revenge. I bought it because it was a smart business decision. The company needed new leadership and fresh capital. The fact that it belonged to my in-laws was, let's call it, an interesting coincidence." "The children's table," she blurted out. "I was horrible to you." "Yes, you were," I agreed calmly. "For 2 years, you treated me like an intruder, a gold digger, someone beneath you. But here's what you never understood. Success isn't about which table you sit at. It's about what you bring to it." Tears welled in her perfectly made-up eyes. "I've lost everything. My standing in the community, my friends." "No, Margaret, you've lost the illusion of power. There's a difference." I handed her a tissue. "But you haven't lost your family, not if you don't want to." She dabbed at her eyes carefully. "How can you even suggest that after how we treated you?" "Because unlike you, I don't measure people's worth by their bank accounts or social status." I pulled out a folder. "Here's my gift to you early." Inside was a contract naming her the head of the Anderson Family Foundation, a new charitable organization I'd established using a portion of the acquisition funds. "You always had a talent for social organizing," I explained. "Now you can use it to actually help people instead of just impressing them." Margaret stared at the papers, her hands shaking slightly. "I don't deserve this. Consider it a second chance, something everyone deserves, even mothers-in-law who serve their CEOs on cartoon plates." A small laugh escaped her, possibly her first genuine one in weeks. As she left my office, she paused at the door. "The party? Will you and James come?" "Of course. But this time, I'll sit at the adult table." The party was different that year. Gone were the obvious displays of wealth and status seeking. Elizabeth helped serve drinks instead of ordering servers around. Michael actually spoke to people instead of networking. And Margaret, to everyone's shock, announced the Foundation's first initiative, a scholarship program for underprivileged students pursuing business degrees. As I watched my mother-in-law actually smile, genuinely smile. While describing the scholarship, James wrapped his arm around me. "You know," he whispered, "you could have told them the truth at any time. You could have crushed them completely." "True," I agreed, sipping my champagne. "But sometimes the best revenge is showing people a better way to live." Later that evening, I found Maria in the kitchen, supervising the cleanup. "Mrs. Kate," she smiled, "look what I saved." She pulled out one of the cartoon plates from Thanksgiving. "A reminder," I laughed, "of why you should never judge someone by where they sit." "No," Maria corrected me, her wise eyes twinkling. "A reminder that sometimes the kids' table has the best view of everyone's true colors." I took the plate home and hung it in my office, a colorful reminder among the awards and business degrees, because success isn't just about climbing to the top. It's about remembering every step that got you there, even the ones that came with cartoon characters and plastic chairs. And Margaret, she still hosts Thanksgiving, but now there's only one table, big enough for everyone, regardless of their title or tax bracket, though I did notice she switched to paper plates for everyone. "Something about starting fresh," she says. "After all, sometimes the biggest changes start with the smallest things, like where you sit at dinner, and who you become when life serves you a different kind of plate."